What can we learn from the production genius of NewJeans' beats? By providing you with an inside look at the creation of their biggest hit, Super Shy, I'll demonstrate how you can apply their innovative production techniques to push the boundaries of your music. This drum groove is genius. We've got a 174 BPM drum and bass break slowed down to 150 BPM, layered with a UK garage kick and snare drum pattern. Here's the liquid drum and bass break with the high pass and sidechain removed. Then the UK garage drum pattern. These elements work together because slowing down the break to 150 BPM lines up the kick and snare with those in the UK garage beat. If they matched perfectly, here's how the beat would sound. It just sounds like a slowed down drum and bass beat, right? The momentum or pulling feel of the groove has gone. But check out what the producer of this track did. Adding this extra kick here, a 16th note after the snare, turns it into a UK garage beat. Incredibly simple, but it really makes all the difference in how the groove is perceived. This is our first example of genre fusion, finding a pairing between two disparate styles to create something fresh and unique. Processing wise, I'm using an EQ to roll off the kick drum from the break and to emphasize the hats and the shuffle. A compressor is sidechaining the break to my main kick and snare, ducking these elements out of the way to stop them clashing. Following this up is a clipper, clipping off the transients from the kick and the snare since I don't want anything obstructing my main kick and snare. Here's what the waveform looks like before and after clipping. You can see that anything over this line is being chopped off, reducing the loudness of the kick and snare. This provides space for my main kick and snare without these sounds obstructing them in the mix. I've then followed this with a gate to reduce some of the splash from the hats, bringing them more in line with the original. The drums on the original track are what I call sweet, but in producer lingo they're referred to as airy, meaning they have a lot of high end around 12 kHz. I'm utilizing the air lift on this saturation plugin to add a bit of sparkle and emphasis to the high frequencies, opening up the top end. Because this is saturation, I'm also adding in harmonics, providing a warming and thickening effect. Here's a before and after of the processing on the break. This is a great example of where the sound seems worse on its own, but better in the context of the drums and the whole track. This is an important distinction to note, and it's why you should use solo mode sparingly when mixing. Here's an A-B of the break with the kick and snare. Sounds much tighter with the emphasis shifted to the main kick and snare, and elements of the break shuffle are providing the groove. On the groove bus, I've got an EQ, saturator and exciter. The goal of all these plugins is to both lift and glue the sounds together. Here's an A-B. For the introduction, I've got this automation. It's basically a high-pass filter that closes for 2 bars, then gradually reopens as we near the first chorus. Because this filtering changes the loudness perception of the break, I've also added some volume adjustments to ensure the break stays at a consistent level. Oh, and this gate is also bypassed. After this chorus section, the snare is removed and the kick drops into a Jersey club pattern, playing under a rapping vocal. This is genre fusion in action, surprising the listener as the feel of the track completely changes. Don't be afraid of creating new patterns for different sections of your songs, but keep the sound selection the same or similar to maintain consistency. The next most interesting element is the musical sounds. My favourite sound are these bells that play in the introduction and throughout. There's just something about this melody that I love. It's pure ear candy. Super Shy is written in F Dorian. The Dorian mode can be described as a natural minor scale with a raised 6th degree. I love this mode and work with it often because it gives the melody a fantasy and dreamy vibe, which these bells certainly encapsulate. The melody follows this stepwise motion, which we explored in the latest Kaytranada video, where the interval between consecutive notes is no more than a step. We actually have 4 notes here, breaking the recommended guidance of not having more than 3 stepwise motions together, otherwise it can sound like you're playing a scale. The sounds all come from Analog Lab 5, with the first 2 sounds being a piano and bells preset, respectively. Listening to the original, when we get to this stepwise motion phrase, it sounds like another instrument comes in to add emphasis to this section. I'm using the piano preset again, set around 15 decibels higher with more reverb applied to wash out the sound. These 3 channels are then being sent to a group which has some EQ, removing the lows and highs. A tape and vintage chorus emulation from Arteria is used to make the sound less digital and introduce some analog characteristics. Then a compressor and Sooth 2 are applied to control the group's volume, as this is a very resonant sound. Here's an AB. As mentioned, NewJeans have a focus on early 2000s music with a modern twist. Because of this, I'm using analog instruments to replicate the sound of that era. The idea here is to stay current, yet timeless. The last musical element is the pads, which again come from Analog Lab 5. I have 2 instances of the same patch playing across 2 different octaves to thicken the sound. I've then got a bounce of this that's reversed but chopped to ensure that the correct chords play together. I then got some volume automation that brings in the sound every 2 bars, with Arteria's EFX motions applying some modulation effects over these 2 bars. This adds interest into the arrangement, taking us away from the blocky nature of the chord pattern. I've got some volume automation to emulate the original, which dips out in these sections to provide movement. This helps establish those UK garage vibes. To push all of these elements back in the mix, I'm using an EQ to remove everything but the mids, a stereo imager to spread the sound out, followed by a large dosing of reverb for good measure. This is followed by the 2 Arteria plugins covered earlier. Here's an AB. Bass is another preset from Analog Lab 5. I've got a Culture Vulture distortion to add harmonics, with the drive automated up every 2 bars to add a sense of movement to the sound. Additionally, I've automated the time parameter to give a pop to the start of each note. These adjustments were made to keep my remake in line with the original. These automation parameters pair nicely with those on the reversed pad sound, injecting a progressing motion to the track. There's also a sidechain to the kick drum and a compressor to keep the bass playing at a consistent volume. For my reverb, I'm using Realm by Native Instruments. Incredibly, this plugin is actually free and might be my favorite reverb. It's excellent for both long, black hole type reverbs and short, dampened ones. I'll leave a link to it in the description. For mastering, I start with an EQ that rolls off everything out of the sides below 100Hz, scoops out some mud around 500Hz, and rolls off the ultra highs to give the track a more analog quality and remove some of the digital brightness. Next is saturation for added harmonics. This is followed by a glue compressor, which, as the name suggests, helps to glue together the elements across the project. A multiband compressor then tames the highs gradually. The need for this seemed to depend on which headphones I was using. The final process involves a clipper and a limiter combination that helps me maximize the average loudness. The limiter is working much harder without the clipper, going from minus 1.2 decibels of gain reduction to minus 9 decibels. This makes sense as the clipper is reducing the transients before the signal reaches the limiter, but without the clipper, the limiter would only be responding to these peaks rather than the track as a whole. If you're interested in learning more about this, you might enjoy this video exploring how Skrillex uses clippers and limiters to maximize loudness. I hope you find it valuable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.